Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 6.5, The Truth and the Twins. We are back, and Darnell has demonstrated the greed of the beast. It's only been a day since we last read Aetheral Space.
Yeah, I need more. I can't go without anymore. I'm too invested. I need it. I already am like, why aren't there more chapters after this? That's how greedy I
need to write them, I'm sorry.
Get working, writer. See, this is the great part about being an Aetheral Space fan, is you can directly yell at Tanhony. George R.R. Martin doesn't give a fuck what you say. But Tanhony, he can't escape you.
But I do appreciate everyone who reads it.
Yeah. We have a small but active fan base of Aetheral Spacers out there. What's a good Aetheral Space fan name? We need a better name than Aetheral Spacers.
Dragon Slayers.
Dragon Slayers, I like that. That should be like Musazi's new unit.
The goal is solely to kill Dragon.
Dragon agent! The Supreme doesn't even care anymore. They're like, hey, can you do something else? He's like, no,
Supreme's
this is my
order. It's never been on their radar.
Sorry, the supremacy, I mean. Yeah.
It's like, the Supreme said as like a clerk and betrayed the supremacy. Unforgivable.
I can't believe it. This uppity cogitant. I can't wait for it to be revealed that the Supreme's like Dragon's actual father that abandoned him. It's like, cogitant blood.
Maybe not.
Atoy Musazi watched in stunned disbelief as the Mini-Marie ravenously devoured what few supplies had been left in this residence's fridge. It was truly a sight to behold. When he opened the door, this Mini-Marie had been the size of a child, but as she continued to shovel food onto her mouth, I assume into. Yeah. Her proportions were slowly growing to match the way she'd been the last time he'd seen her. It was like he was watching her grow up and super fast forward. Marie pulled a ragged cloak tight around herself as she tore into a frozen steak with her newly sharp teeth, utterly eviscerating it. Musazi blinked, so I'm guessing this means that Gene Tyrants use food calories to activate their powers.
Well, they need the stuff to move the stuff, basically.
Gotcha. Marie pulled... Okay. Musazi blinked, stupefied by the sheer speed and ferocity with which Marie was eating him out of house and home, and the fact that she was here at all. He'd watched her die, after all. He'd spent hours next to what remained of her corpse, watching her body turn cold. He'd seen it. He'd seen it. She looked up at him, a leaf of salad still sticking out of her mouth. I need to recover the biomass, she said by way of explanation, slurping it up. She was truly displaying the greed of a beast! No! Why would you
I added that on moments before, so I did you the link.
Why would you... Are you going to keep that in?
There's no harm in
it. Brilliant. Musazi... Hang on, I need a minute. Musazi's dazzled mind latched onto the only anchor it could find. Recover biomass, he replied quietly. That's your aether ability, then? Marie sighed, putting down the can of soup she'd been in the middle of opening. It landed on the table with a harsh clunk. A toy? She looked at him steadily. I already told you what I am. Were you not listening? She had said something, back on the doorstep, but the words that left her mouth had been so ludicrous that he'd instantly discarded them. Surely she couldn't have been serious. Surely. Marie rubbed the bridge of her nose, twirling a protein stick between her fingers. Do you need me to say it again, a toy? Like a lost child, he nodded. Is Atoy his first name?
Yeah.
Okay. Her gaze turned hard, and the words almost seemed reluctant to leave her mouth. I'm a gene tyrant. He took a reluctant step forward, hands gesturing vaguely. But when you say that, do you mean you're a gene tyrant, or... I mean what I say. I am a gene tyrant, a shapeshifter that can take on any form she likes. I can say it as many times as you like. Musazi collapsed into the chair behind him. It seemed that in the last few minutes his life had simply stopped making sense. He hunched over, his head in his hands. What was even happening anymore? Me? I don't understand, he said, voice muffled. How is that even possible? The gene tyrants are all dead. Marie shrugged as if the question was inconsequential, leaning back in her seat. I guess they must have missed one. He looked up from his hands. You don't know? How could you not know? Another sigh left Marie's lips as she scratched at her hair, which Musazi couldn't help but notice was actively growing longer as she ate. He supposed that to a gene tyrant the hair was simply another part of the body to be sculpted to their liking. just another piece of biomass. Ugh. To a gene tyrant. He should listen to himself. He'd taken such an absurdity into his thought process so easily. He couldn't help but chuckle wryly. How much do you know about gene tyrants? Marie asked, cocking her head. I thought they called themselves something else, like gene nobles.
They do.
It's very interesting that she refers to them as gene tyrants as well. It makes me think she's not a fan of her own people. Musashi crossed his arms, somewhat regaining his composure as his mind was pointed in a specific direction. He took a deep breath, clearing away the confusion that remained. It's as you say, Musashi began. They were a group of humans that reached the limits of their form, and so set out to change it with genetic engineering. By the end, they were immortal shape-changers that manipulated and ruled over all other life, until they were overthrown in the 1,000 revolutions. Are you? He hesitated. Even the notion itself seemed ridiculous, like some kind of fantasy story, but he could think of no other explanation. Are you a survivor of that empire, then? Marie shook her head without even a moment's delay. No, she said, sounding almost bored. I wasn't around for any of that. Then, Musashi furrowed his brow. Are you a descendant of a survivor, then? Where is it you come from, if not that time? Marie sat cross-legged on her chair, licking the remnants of her food off her fingers. She looked almost identical now to how she'd been before the explosion, if just the tiniest bit shorter. For a moment she seemed to be searching for the words she wanted, but eventually she began speaking. Do you know how it worked for the gene tyrants? Reproduction, I mean? She asked, shifting uncomfortably in her seat. I have no idea. Musashi shook his head. I don't even think Musashi knows how normal reproduction works. History outside of that of the supremacy.
If you're not married.
I was brought by the stork to the supremacy. History outside of that of the supremacy had never interested him. The gene tyrants had always seemed a vague, nebulous threat far off in the past. Again, Marie shifted in her seat, leaning one elbow on the table as she looked away. As I understand it, she said slowly, they mainly managed it through binary fission, one gene tyrant becoming two. They were shapeshifters, of course, so they could do in whatever other way they wanted if they felt like it, but that was number one. The thing is, though, that they didn't reproduce much at all. You know why? Musashi shook his head. To him, that concept made no sense at all. What purpose did an empire exist for, if not to expand and spread its influence? Wrong its.
Yeah. You spotted it. I was testing you.
They were the ultimate form of life. Marie wagged a finger. So the only thing that scared them was others of their own kind. They didn't want there to be enough gene tyrants for factionalism to take place, so reproduction was strictly forbidden except for very specific cases. Even so, Musashi put his fist to his chin, wouldn't that lead to stagnation? The same immortal beings ruling forever? To be honest, he didn't even really care how absurd this whole matter was anymore. He was sitting here discussing the fine points of gene tyrant reproductive policy with a dead woman who claimed to be a gene tyrant. Perhaps he'd fallen asleep on the couch and this was some kind of dream. All the same, the slightest smile rose to his face. Even if that was the case, none of this was real. It was a good dream. No! A toy. Exactly. Marie snapped her fingers and pointed to Musashi. She too seemed to be getting into it. So what they did instead was something called rebooting. A gene tyrant's consciousness is distributed throughout their entire body, right? She paused for a moment, closing her eyes, and when she opened them again, her gaze was dark. So, she concluded, if a gene tyrant was absolutely sure they wanted to make another gene tyrant, what they do is concentrate that consciousness into a single point in their body and wipe it clean. Kill themselves, essentially, and let a new consciousness grow in their place. It wasn't difficult to put the pieces together. And that's how you came about, then? Marie nodded. From what I've managed to gather, a survivor of the gene tyrants stuck around for a good while, and around 100 years or so ago rebooted themselves into me. She clicked her tongue. They were a real asshole about it, too. Wait, so, like, they killed their entire self? I thought she was implying they just did a part of themselves.
No, so you die, and then someone else, a new person gets your body, basically.
Interesting. Didn't leave behind any information or resources for me or anything. Everything I'm telling you now is stuff I've managed to scrounge together over the last century. The last century. To be honest, Musashi had always assumed that he was slightly older than Marie. This was something of a rude awakening. You're 100 years old, then? He asked quietly. My mind is, at least. Musashi put a hand to his temple, leaning forward in his chair. And the Commission is fine with this? The founders of the Supremacy were among those who brought down the Gene Tyrants, and now they're employing you? Marie crossed her arms, her gaze cold. It's not exactly willing on my part. They've got all sorts of countermeasures in my body ready to take me out if I try and go rogue. But who else knows about this? She seemed to genuinely think about it for a second, putting her finger to her lips. Commissioner Kaiser definitely knows. Is it Caesar or Kaiser?
Caesar in this case.
Commissioner Caesar definitely knows, but I'm not 100% sure on who else she's led in the loop. Probably some other high-ups. With the final scoop of ice cream, Marie returned to her original size, wincing as she received the inevitable brain freeze. Superior life form gets brain freeze? Pathetic. She tossed the spoon.
Back to biology.
2 weak. She tossed the spoon back into the bucket and threw her hands up into the air. Well, there you have it, she declared, the matter-of-fact confidence she'd exhibited draining away. There's the whole story. I'm a gene tyrant and stuff, I guess. It only made sense that Marie felt uncomfortable, Musashi supposed. This wasn't the sort of secret that one spoke about frequently. Apart from the higher-ups, would there have ever been another occasion where Marie divulged this of her own free will? She trusted him with that. That, if nothing else, brought warmth to Musashi's heart. A toy! I can't take it! Oh, man. Ooh! It took him a while to speak again, and even when he did, his voice was extremely quiet. I'm glad you're all right. Marie scratched her cheek in mock embarrassment. Oh, you're gonna make me blush, a toy. She smiled, and strangely enough, Musashi found himself smiling too. Life complete. But this wasn't a time to sit around grinning at each other like fools. The fact remained that somehow, I assume someone had attempted to kill them with that bomb, and that they had failed was immaterial. Musashi cleared his throat, sitting up straight in his chair. I have to admit, he said solemnly, I have behaved disgracefully in your absence. I have no idea who is behind this, nor who tried to kill us. I apologize. Marie smiled. Oh, that's no problem. How so? Well, she leaned back. I'm willing to bet I'm with them right now. Oh no! Marie symbiote? Oh my god. Fucking Miki? Death wasn't a difficult thing to imitate at all. Actually, no, I'm gonna popcorn it to you. I need a break.
Sure. Heartbeat slowed to its utmost, skin cooled to ice, eyes blinded into props, limbs stiffened into stone. Subtly, invisibly, the body was modified to take in air through unseen means. Ragged skin became a sensory network, pumping in the stimulus of the outside world in place of the traditional organs. This body still had 2 needles in it, so she couldn't move freely. All she could do was wait for the right movement. Marie Hazard could taste cold metal below her. As she'd expected, she'd been moved. It wouldn't be her other half. They'd already have recombined into one being if that was the case. It seemed her gambit had worked then. The person behind this wanted to prove to Darkstar they were worthy to join their ranks. They intended to do that by crippling Nocturnus' role as a transport hub, but it was a good bet they'd be willing to take any other accolades that made themselves available. The murder of a special officer, for example. And for that, they'd need the proof of a body. Clumsy hands moved her body from its container, tossing her onto the cold metal floor. In an instant, the sensory organs she developed across her skin memorised the person's scent, taste, and texture. There was rumbling movements beneath her. They were aboard a vehicle. As subtle as possible, Marie formed ear structures along the side of her body pressing against the floor. What she could hear using them would be muffled, but if this was going to be worth it, she had to listen in. There, see? Said a male voice, familiar, nervous. That's a special officer right there. Marie Hazard, she's in the database, I checked. A hand touched her face, an unfamiliar hand, covered in some kind of cloth like bandages. It tilted her head back and forth, clearly expecting her features. The face matches, said a woman's voice, slow and husky, but that can be falsified. How did you execute? A bomb, the man said. They never even suspected. I could have gone too, but the timing wasn't perfect. I apologise for that. I can probably get another one still, though, so the woman interrupted. Regan?
I called it!
It was a good thing Marie had disabled her automatic responses, otherwise the stiffening of her body would surely have given her away. Marie had never had much faith in authority figures, but being betrayed by the no-name governor of a place like this was truly a new low. If that bomb had actually killed her rather than splitting her in half, it would have been the ultimate humiliation. Somehow, even more nervousness entered Regan's voice. Miss McCoy? He asked. McCoy. So now she had a name for Regan's contact too. From the sounds of it, this woman worked for Darkstar directly. That made her dangerous in the extreme. The bandaged hand pulled back a lock of Marie's burnt hair. And when McCoy spoke, there was a distinct sense of delight in her quiet tones. "This isn't a corpse," she said. Marie didn't waste a moment. Her body left within a second, new eyes forming on her forehead, new legs sprouting from the stump of her torso.
So, can Marie A, who's with Musashi, sense what Marie B is doing, or are they like two distinct entities now?
For the moment, they are two distinct entities. They would have to come back together and become one again to
so
knowledge.
In theory, if they didn't become one again and this Marie survived, would they become two distinct individuals?
For an extended period of time, though, yes, if it was possible.
Nice.
Because they'd experience different things, obviously.
Right.
Claws and spikes growing across her body, she had to move quickly to achieve victory here. There were two people here in the automatic truck apart from her. Regan, who was jumping back in surprise, and this McCoy woman from Darkstar. Her garb was eccentric in the extreme. She wore a tan trench coat and fedora, but every inch of skin was covered by jet black bandages. Not even her eyes were visible. The truck was sorry, let me fix that. The truck was probably automatic. In that case, you'd take these two down right now and change the destination. Regan was closer. Still quadrupedal, she lunged at the governor as he stumbled away, tearing at his wrist with a maw of razor-sharp teeth. His scream of pain echoed through the confined space. As Marie... Let me just add a little bit of description here. Warm blood flowed into her face.
You guys seeing this in real time?
Yeah, you see. That's what we call post-production. As Marie pulled her head back, the scraps of Regan's hand came with her, and the governor fell backwards, screaming as he rolled away. That was fine. She could leave him to bleed out. The real threat was this McCoy. Marie whirled around, leaving deep claw marks in the metal floor below. She was truly ready to pounce on McCoy, to rip it to shreds, but what she saw in that moment gave her pause. 10 rotting corpses, male and female, were gathered around McCoy, limbs splayed out as they floated unbound by gravity. "Corpse construct," McCoy said calmly. "Return gate." To any other organism, what happened next would have been a simple flash of movement. Only enhanced vision and reflexes Marie possessed allowed her to actually perceive it. That didn't make it any more pleasant. Immediately, 9 of the corpses collapsed on themselves with a sickening crack of bone, compressed into strands of organic matter as thin as spaghetti. As one, strands flowed into the open mouth of the one remaining corpse, and as they did, the skull of that corpse inflated, breaking through the rotted skin and muscle until the cranium filled nearly half the container. The open jaw of the skull was as large as a door frame, and fittingly enough, McCoy stepped backwards into it. "It seems you failed, Regan," she said calmly, in the moment before the jaw snapped shut around her. "We won't meet again." A moment later, the skull dissipated into rotting tan ether, and the room was empty.
Tan ether? Can't believe this.
Wait, the room was empty? Marie turned again, just in time to hear the thunk as Regan locked the door between the front cabin and the container of the truck. Clearly, he had retreated further up to hide and treat his injuries. That wasn't an issue. Marie adjusted her configuration once again, returning to a bipedal form as she approached the cabin door. She didn't yet have the biomass to assume her normal human shape, so the legs she created were thin and pointed, like those of an insect. She scuttled forward, holding her hand out. Marie, when no one's around, gets real wild.
Yeah.
New organs within her body produce flammable gases, which then ignited and expelled through an orifice on her palm.
So it's not like every time she transforms she needs biomass, it's just like she needs enough matter to make things of like...
She can only use what she has already.
I got you. So it's a matter of like the size and like how much to play with, rather than like it burns it away.
With more, whatever she like changes to, she has to use the same amount of mass.
I gotcha.
The metal door burned red as the stream of flame buffeted against it. Perseverance would win out against durability in this case. However, there were 4 echoing clicks, the sound of the cabin uncoupling from the container, and a second later the room shook as its movement ceased and it fell down onto the snow. The thin legs Mary had constructed collapsed beneath her, and she was spent sprawling to the floor. A bestial hiss escaped her throat as she picked herself up with her hands, her body already changing back into a smaller and more stable quadruped form. She'd lost Regan, but she still had 2 tasks before her. First was to join back up with her other half to regain her lost biomass. Second was to pass on the information she'd learned about Regan and Darkstar. Both of those were required to return to Landfall 1. Marie lashed out with 2 hooked tendrils that sprouted from the back of her throat, seizing hold of the door and tearing it off its weakened hinges. Immediately she was assaulted by the wind and snow that was constantly rampaging outside. Apart from that, however, there was nothing but the darkness.
Could you imagine how terrifying it would be to see this in animation?
As she stepped outside, fur growing over her form to provide some protection from the cold, Marie squinted and looked around. Even with enhanced vision, there was clearly nothing to be seen for miles around. She clicked her tongue as she lay down in the cold. They'd been driving some time before that confrontation. Even with physical advantages, there was no way Marie would be able to make it back to Landfall 1 without freezing to death. Only one option then. She'd have to get creative about things.
Burrow under the ground to insulate herself and be heated when you get closer to the core.
Hibernate for the winter.
Yeah! I'll come back in 3 months. Oh man, I need more. That was good. I love seeing Musashi care about someone. I love seeing that care be reciprocated. I love seeing Marie get crazy freaky, and I'm very intrigued to see what the fuck this Miss McCoy is up to, and why she chose such a weird, like, gross power. Because, like, from what I understand, your Aether core, that's like a part of who you are. You can't control that, but you, like, choose your Aether techniques and how you use them. So she was like, I think I'm just going to mutilate corpses to make things happen.
Yeah. So
gross and inconvenient.
He required 10 different corpses.
I'm wondering if it's like the limitation of having to use dead people gives it more power or something.
Something to note as well, she knew immediately when she touched Marie that wasn't a corpse.
Yeah. Perhaps she is the dead? I don't know. Or she's like really good at seeing if things are dead or alive. Either way, very intrigued to see how this goes. I want more. I know there isn't more, but I want it. So, give it to me, please.
Sorry. Things is the most recent word written in Aetheral space, so that's all I have.
Damn. Alright, well, thank you very much for letting me read some more. Surely you'll have 3 more chapters done by tomorrow, though, right?
No. I'm not even going to joke.
Damn. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching.
More backlog done now, then we can maybe try to do things like Patreon with early chapters or things like that. That'll be something interesting.
Yes, yes!
The greed of a beast.
Can you see it in my eyes, that greed of a beast?
Well, no, but I've also seen a lot of more comments recently on Royal Road, which has made me very happy. I love getting comments, seeing what people think.
There's also something really funny visually about, like, one Marie being, like, small and then, like, slowly growing normal, and then the other Marie becoming, like, an eldritch monster.
The thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just the dissonance. That would be so cool to see animated.
Marie when someone else is in the room. Hello, can I have some food? Marie when Musashi's not in the room is like, screech!
Incoherent screeching.
It's from the throat.
Yeah, that's such a gross image. I love it. Like, gross in a good way. I think Hamilton would like this character if he reads Aetheral Space. I'm not sure if he's caught up.
I'm sure he listens to every episode, right, Hamilton?
Smile. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time. Leave comments on Royal Road. Share this series with your friends, please. Preferably the final version on Royal Road, because this audiobook sucks, but please, yes.
Yeah, if you check it out through the videos, please check it out on Royal Road as well. Just scroll through it. Just give me that one.
Wow. So
well, you've already got it through the audiobook. You've already read it, so it might as well be reflected.
Oh, I love it. All right. Now for real this time, bye.
To go up. Bye.
Bye.